Cai Boyu, a lackluster high school student from China, unexpectedly traveled to a wasteland apocalypse born from a biochemical crisis. Fortunately, he unexpectedly acquired the command and conquer end-of-mind system. With the blessing of the system, for Cai Boyu, the system not only allowed him to protect himself, but also gave him the power to write new history. This novel was written by the author out of interest, so don't worry about writing style. If you don't like it, just don't read it directly. Don't go to the comments section to find a sense of existence. Thank you for your cooperation. Attention. The worldview of this novel lacks elements of supernatural powers and cultivation. The protagonist of the novel, Cai Boyu, is truly kind and loves peace, but this does not mean that he is the Virgin Mary. He has his own principles and bottom line. This novel only uses a portion of the speeders, command and conquer. The end-of-mind 3.3.6-inch setting in unit settings, so some unit settings may differ from the original setting. The protagonist Cai Boyu in the novel is able to use all technologies including Soviet Union, Allied Forces, Fenfeng, Epsilon, and neutral technology. Wishing all readers a pleasant reading. Chapter 1. Crossing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hello everyone, I am Cai Boyu and I am currently in the same area. I don't know where it is, may I ask what I should do next? I will wait online, it's quite urgent. Cai Boyu, a high school boy from a regular high school in China with white hair and red pupils, was lying in bed for less than 3 minutes before his travels. He had just finished his homework. As soon as I woke up, not to mention home, I couldn't even find my own bed. When he woke up, he found himself lying in a rundown small flat. Hello, an unknown voice rang out. Sleeping trough, lying trough. This startled Cai Boyu. Cai Boyu quickly grabbed a water pipe, retreated to the corner of the wall, and looked around anxiously. Cai Boyu shouted, "Who's there? Don't be sneaky. If you have the ability, come out and fight alone." The voice said, "Who's free to scare you? I'm your dear system." Cai Boyu looked bewildered and said, "System? Are you referring to the kind in online novels? The system says, hey, the host is really smart, that's what you're referring to." The sound of the system is neutral but very mischievous. After listening, Cai Boyu put down the rusty water pipe in his hand and gently patted his chest, saying, "Oh my goodness, you almost scared me to death with this hello. Cough, 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 cough. At this moment, Cai Boyu found a stool, gently blew off the dust on it, placed it next to the dilapidated table, and then sat on the stool. Cai Boyu said, "You said you were the system, and just now you called me the host, which means you are my system, right?" The system replied, "That's right, host." Cai Boyu said, "Okay, since you are a system, I have a few questions to ask you." The system says, "Host, please let me know. I will definitely answer if I can." Cai Boyu extended a finger in his right hand and said, "Firstly, have I traveled across the country now, and I am not in China, or even in Blue Star?" The system replied, "Yes, host. You are currently in another universe, and your planet is called Live. There are also intelligent creatures on this planet like you, and they are almost indistinguishable from you." "I see. Can I still go back?" Cai Boyu asked. The system replied, "Host, I regret to inform you that it is not possible. The binding between me and you, as well as the entire process of your traversal here, are irreversible. Once they occur, there is no way to stop or trace the entire process." The system continued, "But as far as I know, you are an orphan. You don't have any friends around you, and people around you are trying their best to target and isolate you. Even your uncle doesn't care about you. What is the need for you to go back? Cai Boyu fell silent. The system is indeed telling the truth. He has never seen his own parents and knows nothing about them. I have also been ridiculed and isolated by people around me because of this. My uncle is okay, although he doesn't care about me, at least he won't abuse me. And the only one who truly cares about oneself is the aunt who has raised oneself. Unfortunately, a week before he crossed over, his aunt passed away in a car accident. Cai Boyu knelt beside his aunt's coffin and cried all night. Which was also the reason for his bald head. The system immediately realized that it had said the wrong thing and apologized. Sorry host, I accidentally poked your pain spot. It's okay. Cai Boyu stood up, rubbed his temples, and smiled, saying, I'm not that fragile, otherwise I wouldn't have been there long ago. I don't blame you, but please don't mention this matter again in the future. I understand, the system replied. Cai Boyu continued to ask, the second thing is, why is this Lifu star like this now? What happened here? The system replied, it's like this. Lifu star experienced a man-made and premeditated biochemical crisis. Coupled with premeditated nuclear strikes, it ultimately turned 70% of the world's population into biochemical monsters, with one person dying from a nuclear explosion and ultimately leaving 20% of the world's population. Since the collapse of governments in all countries around the world, Lifu star has entered the apocalyptic era. The system paused for a moment and then said, you are currently in the 56th year of the apocalypse era, which is the 56th year after the outbreak of the apocalypse. If we include the resistance of the previous humans for 1 year, it will be 57 years. The remaining humans originally formed a coalition government, but later due to various reasons, they split and formed numerous forces, and they have been constantly fighting each other. Moreover, the biochemical monsters in this world are not weak, so the host must be careful. Cai Boyu said, I understand. By the way, you have already bound my system, so I must have some special abilities, right? The system instantly became excited and said, of course you have special abilities, your special abilities, or more precisely, your special identity. The Supreme Commander of the Ultimate Alliance for the End of Mind. Upon hearing the 4 words, the end of the soul, Cai Boyu understood. Isn't this just making him a commander, and he has also played this game before. He has already won the battles of the Soviet Union, the Allies, and the Foreign Wind, but he hasn't had time to fight the Battle of Epsilon yet. Although the 3 camp battles that were successfully completed only cleared the leisure difficulty. Cai Boyu asked, I understand the end of the soul, but what does this ultimate alliance mean? The system says, you are the leader of the 4 major factions of the Allied, Soviet, Foreign, and Epsilon. However, for some reasons, you may not be able to lead all factions at the same time, but you can gradually unlock them, and unlocking them is conditional. The system continued, at the beginning, you will have a mobile construction vehicle from a certain sub-camp of one camp, and then you need to study the technology of the corresponding sub-camp. When your technology reaches a certain level, you will have a mobile construction vehicle from another sub-camp. In the end, when the technology of the entire camp develops to a certain extent, you will obtain a mobile construction vehicle from a sub-camp of another camp, and then the same goes. However, note that the development of the technology tree for each camp may deviate from the game, understand? I see, I understand. Cai Boyu replied. By the way, considering that you did not complete the Battle of Epsilon, so. The system asked, is there anything else you want to know? Don't ask me questions about whether a virus will infect you and your soldiers. You and your soldiers are immune to various virus infections, otherwise as an ordinary person, you would be infected with the virus and die. Cai Boyu said, the last 100 million questions. Where can I get a motor construction vehicle, and which camp's motor construction vehicle was given to me? Cai Boyu rubbed his hand as he asked. He can't wait to give it a try. System. Get out of this bungalow, and then you'll understand. Cai Boyu walked to the door and opened it. Sleeping trough. Cai Boyu was shocked by the scene before him. In front of him was a vehicle shaped like a huge blue truck. The Allied motorized construction vehicle. Note. Next, for each sub-camp of the end of the Seoul, I will mostly use their English abbreviations. In order for everyone to understand, I will first write the English abbreviations and the sub-camps represented here. Soviet sub-camp. Big Brother. RU Huaxiao. CN Latin Alliance. LC Allied sub-camps. Eagle Sauce. U.S. Pacific Front. PFEU. EA Fenfeng Camp. Crazy Shark Pioneer. HH Colonia Wings. WC Last Fortress. LB Epsilon Army Headquarters Guard. HQ Seoul Legion. PC Scorpio Organization. SC. Chapter 2. Getting started with Little Toys. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wow. You've already prepared the system for me. Cai Boyu looked at the motor construction vehicle with a surprised expression on his face. The system replied, that's for sure. Now that you have your commanding authority, go and give it a try. What permissions? Cai Boyu hadn't figured it out yet when he suddenly realized that he was holding a tablet on his right hand. Hey! Cai Boyu carefully examined the tablet. The style of a tablet is very simple, and it is no different from tablets in the real world. The overall color of the tablet is black, and there is an exclusive, playful purple moon icon at the end of the Seoul. Cai Boyu asked, what is this? This is your tactical command equipment. After all, you are not a professional commander. In order to simplify your operations, we have made them as gamified as possible. Now controlling troops and building bases is as simple as playing games, the system replied. Cai Boyu quickly bowed and said, thank you for the big system. Then Cai Boyu asked, but why are you helping me like this? The system replied, I am only trying to prevent and end a disaster that is about to unfold on Lifu. A new storm is threatening the entire universe, while the Lifu people are still engaged in civil war. I must prevent and end all of this, but I alone cannot exert my power. I must have a host. Cai Boyu listened in confusion and said, what is your so-called disaster? And why do you have to choose me as the host, can't others? The system remained silent for a few seconds before finally uttering a sentence, you will naturally understand these things in the future. Cai Boyu listened and did not continue to ask, because the system sentence had already told him that there was no need to do so. Okay, let's talk about it later. Let's take a look at what this little toy from the Allied base vehicle can bring me. After that, Cai Boyu opened the tactical command equipment. That is, the tablet. After Cai Boyu pressed the power button, his tactical command equipment changed. The screen lit up, and the image above showed a divine perspective, showing the construction site, himself standing next to the construction site, and a small area around the construction site, while the rest of the area was covered in darkness. Cai Boyu roast. Boy, have you transplanted the fog of war? Cai Boyu looked around. This was a plain, surrounded by an abandoned road extending east-west, except for bungalows and Allied mobile construction vehicles. Cai Boyu can see the vast forests to the south of the plain, and a forest to the north. He can see a U-shaped valley composed of two small hills further away from the forest, and the forest to the south can vaguely see the outline of the town. Cai Boyu said, I feel like the conditions here are pretty good. Let's establish a base here. As soon as the words fell, a square formed by a warning line appeared at a certain distance from the motor construction vehicle, and the warning line was also marked with the words, construction area. Cai Boyu quickly retreated and left the construction area marked by the warning line. As soon as Cai Boyu left the construction area, the Allied mobile construction vehicle emitted a loud roar and the friction of mechanical parts. The mobile construction vehicle began to disintegrate into different parts, then moved and reassembled. Cai Boyu, who was watching from the side, sighed and said, "Oh my goodness, this is really spectacular." In less than a minute, the motor construction vehicles reorganized into the construction site. Meanwhile, Cai Boyu refocused his attention on the tactical command system. That tablet. Compared with the image in the game, the screen image is not very similar, it is exactly the same, but it is a high-definition version. Those who didn't know thought Cai Boyu was really playing games. The first thing that caught Cai Boyu's eye was the production building fence. Because currently there are only production building fences available, including barracks, or refineries, drilling and power plants. Cai Boyu was originally planning how to build a base, but a terrifying fact shattered his imagination: his war funding amount is 0. How can people live without money? Cai Boyu began to remorselessly roast. The system says, "There's nothing I can do. My current situation is quite special and I can't provide you with any more war funds. So, in order to make up for the 0 war funds, I have something specially prepared for you." After speaking, one appears in the lower right corner of the icons for the power plant, barracks, or refining plant, and drilling in the building column. The system says, "I have already given you the basic building, you can use it directly. By the way, drilling cannot be placed randomly, it needs to be placed on the ore deposit." Cai Boyu gave a thumbs up and said, "It still has to be you." After speaking, Cai Boyu immediately selected the location and placed the barracks, power plant, and/or refining plant. Drilling Cai Boyu did not place it because everything around him showed that it could not be placed. There was no mine here. The new building was quickly deployed. Just as fast as in the game. At this moment, a female voice sounded. "Commander, we have new construction projects available. Does that thing still have voice AI? It's quite advanced. But it can't solve the fundamental problem. In fact, Cai Boyu still has a headache now. Without money and war funds, he cannot develop. The system says, the initial infantry garrison has already given it to you, please sign for it." After the system finished speaking, 12 allied soldiers gradually ran from the barracks to Cai Boyu. "Commander." An allied soldier saluted Cai Boyu, followed by other allied soldiers who also saluted. Cai Boyu was stunned for a few seconds before shouting, "Stand at attention." The allied soldiers immediately stood at attention. Cai Boyu watched the allied soldiers overjoyed and quickly bowed to thank the system, saying, "Strong system, YYDS." Cai Boyu turned his head to look at the soldiers again. The allied soldiers were all uniform Europeans and Americans, although they had different appearances, their equipment was the same. They wore white helmets with goggles on their heads, blue tactical bulletproof vests, uniform camouflage pants, and military boots. The most eye-catching thing is the DSR.80 machine gun in their hands. The Allied soldiers at the end of their soles had 2 weapons. The DSR.80 machine gun used during deployment and an unknown model automatic pistol commonly used. Cai Boyu looked at the machine guns of the Allied soldiers and suddenly thought of a big question. Cai Boyu asked, "How should I solve their supply?" The system immediately responded, "Don't worry. The construction site can provide endless food and drinking water, and the barracks can provide unlimited ammunition. You just need to be responsible for leading people to fight. By the way, all units can understand and speak Chinese, so don't worry about language barriers." Cai Boyu looked shocked and said, "It's truly the system. The system is amazing, thank you." "You're welcome, it's a small matter, call me if you have something to do." Then the system fell silent again. At this moment, a soldier saluted while greeting Cai Boyu, "Commander, we are ready. May I ask what your next command is?" Chapter 3. Xiti New Car. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cai Boyu pointed to the soldiers and said, 6 people in a row, divided into 2 rows, hurry up. After receiving the order, the Allied soldiers immediately changed their formation according to Cai Boyu's request. Cai Boyu said, "Great, next, I announce." All soldiers focused their attention on Cai Boyu. Cai Boyu continued, "The first row is the action team, which is responsible for external exploration, searching for usable materials, and other external activities. The second row is the security team, specifically responsible for the defense work of the base. Do everyone understand?" The Allied soldiers answered, "Yes, sir." The soldiers' loud responses surprised Cai Boyu. Is this kind of momentum really from the basic soldiers under the capitalist villains who were annihilated at the beginning of the game? Cai Boyu said, "I don't care if you talk to each other, but please speak to me in Chinese." "Yes." The soldiers' answer was still very loud. Cai Boyu said, "Okay, disband, let's all return to our respective positions." The soldiers immediately disbanded, and Cai Boyu looked at the sky, and the sun. More precisely, a star very similar to the sun was slowly setting. Cai Boyu was puzzled and said, "Is it my illusion? Why is it getting dark so quickly?" The system replied, "Is it possible that when you traveled here, it happened to be in the afternoon? Okay, let me go back and rest first." Cai Boyu scratched his head and then turned back to the construction site. Within the Allied construction site, thanks to the system, the motorized construction vehicle is not only a giant vehicle designed to transport workers and building materials in the original work, but also a command center for the base. Now, Cai Boyu is lying on a sofa, contemplating his future plans. Cai Boyu thought to himself, "No matter what the world is like, war is definitely the most important thing for me." The reason why Cai Boyu said this is because the conditions and assistance provided by the current system have proven his idea. Besides war funds, threats from other forces in the world can be ignored, and other consumption can be ignored. But what worries Cai Boyu even more is the disaster in the system's mouth. Although the system did not provide a detailed explanation of what the disaster was, based on current intelligence, one thing is certain: if no one stops, the consequences of this disaster will be devastating. If the system could tell me what kind of disaster it was, it would be great. I would also be mentally prepared and consider whether there are any countermeasures, Cai Boyu said as he inserted a headphone into his left ear. Cai Boyu turned on the radio and said, "Guard, if you hear me, please answer." An Allied soldier replied, "This is the base guard, Commander." "What is your order?" Cai Boyu said, "Just now I was just testing the radio. You continue to carry out the base guard mission, it's over." "Yes, it's over." The Allied soldiers turned off their radios. Cai Boyu also turned off the radio and secretly felt proud. The customized radio provided by the system is really useful. Cai Boyu already had the idea of going outside to see, but it was difficult to take action. The base is severely understaffed, making it impossible to fully guarantee its safety. And without a vehicle, this means that exploring outside will consume more time, carry less supplies, and have higher risks. Cai Boyu cautiously probed, "System, can we give a car?" The system roast. "Why don't you ask me to give you a tank?" After thinking for a moment, Cai Boyu replied, "Ah. It's not impossible either." The system cursed, "Get lost." The system sighed and said, "Forget it, considering that you are a vegetable chicken, let me give you some good things." The command system AI heard a voice. "There are new buildings that can be placed." Cai Boyu was overjoyed as he opened the building railing and said, "The system is my father, I said it." On the screen, a 1 appears in the bottom left corner of the power plant, or refining plant, and war factory. He can place 1 power plant, 1 or refining plant, and 1 war factory for free. The system says, "Listen up, besides those things earlier, I will give you 4 more machine gun bunkers to support your base defense, and you can get the promised car after it is placed in the war factory. These are all considered beginner gift packages, don't lose face." "Okay, thank you for the system." Cai Boyu is currently having fun while placing the building. It's really profitable to spend so much money on nothing before encountering enemies. There shouldn't be too much concern about base defense. With soldiers and vehicles, we can take off. Cai Boyu's words had just finished, and the last building, the war factory, was officially ready for use. Now is the lottery stage. Cai Boyu is ready to welcome his new car. 3 vehicles quickly drove out of the war factory. Armed Hummer report. IFV ready, Commander. Cai Boyu listened to the news on the radio and smiled slightly. Finally, it's here. 2 armed Hummers and a Stryker infantry tank were parked in front of the war factory. They were part of the big gift package given to Cai Boyu by the system. Cai Boyu smiled and said, "Welcome to join us." The drivers all got off the car and saluted Cai Boyu. "Commander, we are always waiting for your orders." Cai Boyu nodded and understood that external exploration could be officially put on the agenda. Chapter 4. About the system. You are listening at novel full.audio. Cai Boyu rubbed his hands and said, "System, can you give me some good things? Even if it's just an Abrams, it's okay." The system cursed, "Get lost, you're making things difficult for this system." Cai Boyu looked puzzled and said, "No, you're a system. Rubbing a tank is still making things difficult for you. What international joke are you playing?" The system roast. "You hand-holding party, do you know how much energy I spent to make your end-of-mind structure? I'm tired to death now." Cai Boyu looked bewildered and said, "Ah." Cai Boyu continued to ask, "So, is the entire mind-ending system actually created by you separately? Are you actually the creator of the mind-ending system?" The system replied, "You can say that." Cai Boyu asked, "Then you have this ability. Can't you go alone to fight that disaster? You must bring me, an innocent student." The system remained silent for a few seconds. The system replied, "Actually, I don't want to, but I have no choice. I can't directly exert my power, I can only strengthen it by finding a host and transforming my power into another power. And you are the only eligible host. Although you are a student, at least with my help, the current Soul and Ultimate Alliance command system is very suitable for you, and you can unleash its immense power. Come on, I will do my best to help you." Cai Boyu's heart was shaken, and then he smiled and said, "Since the system looks up to me, I can only be respectful and obedient. But may I ask if the system can explain what the disaster you are talking about is?" Cai Boyu began to try to dig deeper. The system remained silent for a few seconds and said, "Lifu's star has become a dead planet due to the various behaviors of the biochemical fanatics of the Star Eaters. The Star Devourers are like the Umbrella Company in a zombie crisis movie about your world. They are very powerful, so don't think about eliminating them now. Development is the only way. You also need to be careful of other forces such as the Hammaster Empire, the Markovian Marauder Gang, and the Iron Blood Federation. Although there are already forces resisting these forces now, the rebels' strength is weak and they are still being vigorously suppressed. Therefore, these forces are not good enemies. Please be careful, host." Cai Boyu patted his chest and said, "Okay, I understand. Don't worry, I will never let this happen." The next day at 6 a.m., Cai Boyu turned on the radio and said, "All gather. Outside the construction site, 12 Allied soldiers and 3 vehicles have already assembled and are ready." An Allied soldier took a step forward and saluted Cai Boyu, saying, "Report to the commander, the base guard and operation team have assembled, please give instructions." Cai Boyu cleared his throat and said, "Everyone, I'm gathering everyone today because we're going to start our external exploration activities." The soldiers began to applaud together, but the applause lasted for a short time, and the entire base became quiet again. Cai Boyu continued, "Now, the action team, it's time to showcase your skills. I command." The action team, along with me, the streak infantry tank, and a Hummer, will conduct external exploration activities, while the rest will stay at the base. The Allied soldiers answered, "Yes, Commander." Without further ado, let's go. After Cai Boyu issued the order, the guard teams returned to their respective positions, while the action team quickly entered the Hummer and infantry tank. 3 people riding on the Hummer, while the others and Cai Boyu all entered the infantry tank. The infantry tank driver asked, "Commander, which direction are we heading?" Cai Boyu pondered for a moment and said, "Go to the northern forest." The driver replied, "Yes." Subsequently, both the infantry tank and the Humvee started their engines and headed towards the forest to the north. The new journey begins here. Chapter 5. Entering the forest for the first time. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the forest, only Humvees and infantry tanks can be seen moving forward and backward, and only the sound of their engines can be heard. The Striker infantry tank, apart from the driver, can accommodate 8 fully armed soldiers. In addition to Cai Boyu and the other 3 soldiers, the infantry tank also carries a lot of water and food inside. Cai Boyu is aware that with his own abilities, there is no way to find a place rich in minerals, and he needs the help of the indigenous people of this world. The decision to go directly to the city is actually very dangerous, because once targeted by other forces, it is very likely that one's own troops will not be able to bear it. However, this is also the most convenient and time-saving way to find indigenous people. If there is no ore, then there is nothing. If you don't enter the tiger's den, how can you get tiger seeds? Since there's nothing at all, why not just take a gamble? What if I win the bet? Cai Boyu has always been optimistic. Cai Boyu believes, I have my own system, soldiers, and cars. If you put this in a novel, then you must be the protagonist of the novel. So Cai Boyu's logic is: I have the configuration of the protagonist in the novel, I am the protagonist in the novel, I have the protagonist's aura, labor and capital are invincible in the world. In an instant, he swelled up. Author. Please do not casually break through the 4th wall of the novel characters. Time flies like this, 6 hours have passed in the blink of an eye. The sun, which Cai Boyu referred to as the sun shining on Lifu Star, has already hung directly above the convoy. Cai Boyu rubbed his stomach and finally turned on the radio, saying, "Everyone, find a place to rest and replenish your energy." The soldiers answered, "Yes, Commander." The convoy stopped moving, and the Allied soldiers on the Hummer immediately got off to investigate the surrounding situation. After getting off the infantry tank, 3 soldiers stood guard around to ensure that there was no danger that could threaten Cai Boyu. Finally, as the commander, Cai Boyu got off the car. Exhausted. Cai Boyu stretched lazily, stretching his body. Sitting in the car for 6 hours can be uncomfortable for anyone. An Allied soldier came to inquire, "Commander, do we still have to follow this road from now on?" "Of course we have to follow." "Wait, along this road." Cai Boyu felt something was wrong and then looked around. Underneath the vehicle is a small forest road with no hardened road surface. At this moment, he realized that the convoy had actually been driving along a small path in the woods all along. Cai Boyu quickly asked the Hummer driver via radio, "Have we been walking along this forest path just now?" The Hummer driver replied, "Yes, Commander. Without this road, our vehicles wouldn't be able to enter the woods." Hiss. Cai Boyu now faced difficulties. This forest path is clearly born from long-term biological activities, which means that the place has not been abandoned, but is still frequently used. And the width of this road is so wide that Humvees and infantry tanks can travel, which means, there are traces of long-term biological activity in this place, and the ones that can produce such forest roads are either large organisms or convoys. Cai Boyu, who had reacted, realized that something was wrong. Cai Boyu turned on the radio and said, "All units, pay attention to vigilance. Perhaps we are around." Suddenly, the voice of an Allied soldier came from the radio. "Commander, there's a situation." "So fast?" Cai Boyu broke out in a cold sweat. Chapter 6. Girls in the Forest. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Due to a reminder from an Allied soldier, Cai Boyu was immediately sent into an infantry tank by 2 Allied soldiers. At the same time, other Allied soldiers immediately disarmed their machine gun safety and guarded both sides of the convoy. Hummer also activated the M2 heavy machine gun on the roof, guarding the front of the convoy. The Stryker infantry tank also activated its own missile system and began searching and investigating all suspicious objects in the surrounding area. A huge sense of threat enveloped the entire team. At this moment, Cai Boyu asked through a wireless inquiry, what exactly happened now? The Allied soldier who first discovered the special situation said, "Commander, we have noticed movement in the convoy about 20 meters away at 10 o'clock. Another Allied soldier said, "Commander, I request that I go and investigate." Cai Boyu pondered for a moment and said, "You two go together and take care of each other. Each unit should pay attention to covering them." "Over." The soldiers answered, "Yes, it's over." 2 Allied soldiers replaced their weapons with automatic pistols and disarmed, cautiously approaching the bushes that had just started moving. The other soldiers had already aimed the muzzle of the disarmed machine gun at the bushes. Cai Boyu has also left the infantry tank and is nervously staring at the 2 soldiers. 2 soldiers came to the tall bushes, one gently placing their hand on the bushes, and the other gripping an automatic pistol on the other side. 2 soldiers nodded at each other, and then one soldier immediately pulled open the bushes, while the other soldier rushed forward and raised his automatic pistol. But the scene before us is completely different from what the 2 soldiers and everyone imagined. I saw a petite girl holding a tree trunk in her right hand and resting her left hand on her chest, panting heavily. The girl has a head of black hair, wearing a white headband, as well as a golden star hairpin and a red bow hairpin. At the same time, she was carrying a brown small shoulder bag and wearing a black suit, which contained a beige knitted sweater and a snow-white shirt. The lower body is a black pleated mini-skirt, with white thin knee-high socks on both legs and a pair of brown Japanese leather shoes on the feet. 2 Allied soldiers were stunned for a second, and one of them asked, "Hello?" After hearing the sound, the girl looked at the Allied soldiers in terror and reached into her shoulder bag. The soldiers saw the situation and shouted, "Don't move, raise your hands." At the same time, they immediately raised their automatic pistols and stared closely at the girl. Although Cai Boyu and the other soldiers couldn't see what the 2 soldiers were facing, hearing their voices and seeing them nervously holding pistols, they understood that something had happened. The group immediately rushed forward. When Cai Boyu saw the situation in front of him, his face was filled with shock. "What exactly is this situation?" Cai Boyu asked a question from his heart. 2 soldiers raised their weapons and stared intently at a young girl. This was what Cai Boyu saw. When Cai Boyu was at a loss, the girl suddenly said, "Wait, don't shoot, I surrender." At the same time, the girl slowly raised her hands above her head and knelt down on the ground. 2 Allied soldiers immediately went up to control the girl upon seeing the situation. One soldier tied the girl's hand behind her with a rope, while the other soldier took her shoulder bag and inspected it. "Commander." The Allied soldier who checked the girl's shoulder bag took out a pistol from the bag and waved to signal that Cai Boyu had completed the danger investigation. "Also, please have a look at this, Commander." The Allied soldier took out a folded file bag from his shoulder bag. Cai Boyu took the file bag and saw a few words on it, "Trader's New Tank Archive." At the same time, under the 3 words, "Archive Bag," there is also a shield and 2 crossed red swords painted. At this moment, another Allied soldier asked Cai Boyu, "Commander, how will this person be dealt with?" Cai Boyu tilted his head slightly and looked at the girl behind the soldier. The girl sat quietly on a stone, her hands tied behind her back. She didn't say anything, just silently observing Cai Boyu and the allied soldiers. Cai Boyu rubbed his temples and said, "That's all for today's exploration. We'll camp here today, and we'll talk about tomorrow. Also, I need to talk to this girl alone." "Yes." The other soldiers quickly returned to the side of the car, unloaded their supplies, and began building a temporary camp. Cai Boyu walked up to the girl and carefully examined her. The girl is not tall, about 1.45 meters tall, and her delicate face is covered in beads of sweat. In the blue pupils, there was a display of determination similar to that of allied soldiers. Cai Boyu asked gently, "Hello, can you tell me your name?" The girl slowly lifted her head and glanced at Cai Boyu, then continued to lower her head. Cai Boyu walked behind the girl and helped her loosen her ties. The girl was somewhat surprised and looked at Cai Boyu with a bewildered expression. Cai Boyu sat on the small stone stool opposite her, carefully examining her. Cai Boyu said, "As you can see, we actually have no hostility towards you. On the contrary, your behavior startled our soldiers. My soldiers also did this for the safety of all of us. If there was any offense, please forgive me." The girl lowered her head and remained silent for a long time, then squeezed out a few words. "I'm sorry for scaring you." Cai Boyu waved his hand and said, "Forget it. Anyway, you didn't mean to do it, and you didn't cause us any losses. We won't pursue this matter." Subsequently, Cai Boyu took out the bread and milk that had already been prepared and handed it to the girl. Cai Boyu said, "I guess you're also hungry and thirsty now. Eat something, drink some milk, and replenish your energy." The girl originally didn't want to accept it. But under the domination of hunger and thirst and Cai Boyu's kindness, the girl snatched the bread and milk directly and began to wolf down the food. This scene made Cai Boyu laugh and cry, "You slow down, no one is competing with you." Obviously, the girl had been hungry for a while, and in no time, she cleaned up the bread and milk. Cai Boyu asked, "Are you full? If you're not full, we'll still." The girl's voice interrupted Cai Boyu, "Thank you. My name is Su Jingwen. Yen Wu Su, Qing Jingjing, Yu Wenwen." Su Jingwen stood up and bowed to Cai Boyu as she spoke. Cai Boyu also stood up and said, "My surname is Cai, my name is Boyu, and my full name is Cai Boyu. Also, you don't need to bow, it's just a gesture." Su Jingwen said, "You should also know my identity. I just hope that we don't invade each other, but if you are willing to support our cause, we will definitely welcome you with open arms." Cai Boyu looked bewildered and said, "Wait a minute, what is your identity? What is your career?" Su Jingwen also felt puzzled. "You should have seen the logo on the file bag, right? Can it be that you don't know about the Dawn Rebellion? Cai Boyu smiled bitterly and said, "Sorry, maybe your organization is really famous, but I really don't know what the Dawn Rebellion is." But Cai Boyu's inner thoughts were, "Good guy, it seems like I've met an important figure in the Dawn Rebellion. Can't I please try to win him over?" Su Jingwen remained silent for a few seconds and said, "Mr. Cai also has a loyal army under his command. I believe Mr. Cai is also a talented person. May I ask if you are now forming your own force or serving a certain force?" Cai Boyu was also honest and said, "I am not serving any faction. You can understand that I am now my own faction." After hearing the words, "self-formed power," Su Jingwen was about to speak, but Cai Boyu then said, "If you want me to join you, I'm sorry, it's impossible because I don't intend to join any power." "Is that so?" Su Jingwen's face flashed with a hint of disappointment. "But I am quite interested in your career," Cai Boyu continued. "What exactly does the Dawn Resistance Army do?" "Never mind, there are already enough people who know us, it doesn't matter if there are more." Su Jingwen muttered to herself and then said, "The Dawn Rebellion was an armed resistance organization established to resist the bloody ruling group represented by the Hammaster Empire and the Iron and Blood Federation. We have been fighting for human freedom, fighting for the survival and development of the people, and fighting for the liberation of all humanity. In the apocalypse, it is reasonable for humanity to unite and resist this disaster together. But in fact, some warlords who control the military have used force to build their own dictatorship empires, implementing tyranny and biochemical crises, which have already made everyone suffer unbearably. The appearance of these dictators has added insult to injury to the lower-class people. When Su Jingwen said the words, "add insult to injury," her tone clearly intensified. The Han-Master Empire and the Iron-Blooded Federation completely disregarded the lives and deaths of the people, with officials vying for fame and fortune, plotting against each other. They fought against each other externally and implemented terrifying military repression and authoritarian rule internally. The domestic people have been constantly oppressed, with huge dark clouds covering the heads of the common people. What's even more ridiculous is that other surviving city-states that are independent of the Federation and Empire actively seize other city-state supplies and population through war. Some only rely on a corner of the city wall, relying on the supplies of the Trade Association to survive. But they never thought of uniting, fighting against the end, and rebuilding their homes. In this current situation, may I ask where the future of humanity should go? So, I and some other like-minded people formed the Dawn Resistance Army to liberate all humanity, and then unite all humanity to resist the terrifying rule of the apocalypse and dictators, and create a brand new future together. Unfortunately, our strength is too weak. Cai Boyu was a bit excited when he heard this. He suddenly thought of his motherland, China, which used to be like this world now. The situation is completely unsolvable, with dictators engaged in bloody and terrifying rule inside and foreign powers engaged in a frenzy of partition outside. But the miracle is, China has turned over. At the cost of the lives of countless predecessors, Huaxia finally stood on the stage of the Blue Star world again, transforming from a country with numerous wounds and poverty to a strong, democratic, civilized, and harmonious country. The cause of the Dawn Rebellion now is as arduous and great as the salvation of the ancestors of China at that time. Cai Boyu actually wants to support them, but now he has no soldiers or money, and his heart is spare but his strength is insufficient. At the same time, he also wanted to roast that Luo Li, who was 1.45 meters old, was the founder of the rebel army. She was almost 18 years old and was a super salted fish fishing in high school. Indeed, it is not possible to generalize between people. Cai Boyu said, "In fact, I really want to support your career." "Really?" Su Jingwen's eyes lit up instantly. "Are you really willing to support our cause?" Su Jingwen asked Cai Boyu again, and now she is very emotional. "But," Cai Boyu continued, "there are conditions." Su Jingwen immediately asked, "What are your conditions?" Su Jingwen understands that their career is completely endless for many people, and in the end of the world where interests are paramount, this is an extremely profitable business. People are ultimately centered around their own interests. So, if someone can support it, it can be said to be fortunate. Su Jingwen only hopes that Cai Boyu's conditions will not be too harsh. Cai Boyu remained silent for a few seconds and said, "Let me tell you about my situation before that." "Okay." Su Jingwen suddenly became particularly focused. Cai Boyu said, "In fact, I don't have many troops right now. I can only command a total of 12 soldiers, as well as 3 vehicles and their drivers. These are definitely a drop in the bucket for your career. It's okay, someone is willing to support us, and we are already very satisfied." Su Jingwen said excitedly, and then he found himself impolite to interrupt Cai Boyu's speech. "Cough, sorry, please continue." Cai Boyu continued, "In fact, I can also expand my army, but I must have enough ore. But the problem is, I don't have any ore income at all. Although it may sound strange, as long as I have a stable income from minerals, let alone a small team, even if I want to establish a front army, I can do it." So I hope you can directly provide us with or provide me with intelligence on areas rich in or resources. As long as there is everything related to cooperation is not a problem. Cai Boyu saw that the other party was so honest, so he simply showcased himself. The most limiting factor for Cai Boyu is the lack of stable financial income, and the main source of war funds is minerals. For Cai Boyu, the amount of ore determines the strength of his army. This. Su Jingwen also began to face difficulties now. She definitely trusts Cai Boyu. Cai Boyu doesn't know about the Dawn Rebellion, which means he is a new force that is not hostile to the rebellion, and there is a possibility of uniting with him. Moreover, her soldiers were well trained and well equipped. Even if they caught her, they didn't do anything, just asked about the situation. Now that they understand the situation with the resistance army, they are even willing to help her. Such people and forces are already very rare in today's environment. But she is not the only one in charge of the rebels, and the rebels themselves are also short of materials. Suddenly, Cai Boyu said, "By the way, there's a question I haven't asked you yet." Su Jingwen said, "Mr. Cai, please speak." Cai Boyu said, "After hearing your introduction, you said you were one of the founders of the resistance army, so you should also be one of the leaders. As a leader, at least there should be some people around you. So why did you appear here alone?" Chapter 7. Second Departure. You are listening at novel full.audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 8. The Swelling and the Dead Resistance Army. You are listening at novel full.audio. Obviously, the Allied soldiers were not overlooked by that bloated ball of flesh. Roar. The swollen one let out a low growl, dragging its obese body towards the two Allied soldiers approaching it. Both sides are only 16 meters apart. Two Allied soldiers fired at the same time, and the 9mm bullets from the automatic pistol continuously hit the swollen body, leaving bullet holes and continuously flowing black blood. Although the swollen person suffered damage from over a dozen bullets within seconds, it only let out a low roar when hit, and now it is still moving forward, with no decrease in speed. The two Allied soldiers saw this and immediately aimed their automatic pistols at the swollen person's head. Two Allied soldiers simultaneously aimed the muzzle of their automatic pistol at the swollen person's head, and then a gunshot rang out, bang. The swollen person was directly hit at its vital point. The center of the forehead. After the gunshot, the swollen person fell to the ground in response. The two Allied soldiers slowly walked forward to examine the swollen person. In no time, an Allied soldier turned on the radio and reported to Cai Boyu, "Report, the enemy is dead." The other Allied soldiers with machine guns behind the Hummer withdrew their weapons. Cai Boyu sighed, "It has been proven that no carbon-based organism can resist the firepower of modern weapons with flesh and blood. If there is, it must be in a dream." However, Su Jingwen suddenly ran towards the corpse beside the swollen person. Cai Boyu suddenly understood something and followed suit. At this moment, Su Jingwen was standing next to the dismembered body that had been devoured by the swollen person. When she could fully see the appearance of the dismembered body, a vomit. The scene before her completely shook Su Jingwen's eyes and brain, forcing her brain to activate her physiological protective mechanism. Vomiting. The scene was unbearable and indescribable, and Cai Boyu dared not look directly at it. An Allied soldier gently patted Su Jingwen's back, trying to make her feel a little more comfortable, while asking, "Commander, what should we do next?" Cai Boyu suppressed his disgust and said, "Let Miss Su take a break first, then we can talk." "No need." Su Jingwen's face turned pale and she walked unsteadily. Fortunately, there were Allied soldiers supporting her next to her. The impact of those few corpses on her is self-evident. Their clothes bear the emblem of the resistance army, and they are the sacrificed resistance soldiers. Su Jingwen's voice was low, and her face remained very pale. Obviously, she has witnessed the sacrifices of rebel fighters countless times, and it is hard to imagine that this is an experience that a 14-year-old girl would have. Cai Boyu said, "We cannot let the soldiers just expose their bodies in the wilderness. Let's find a place to bury them." "Okay." Su Jingwen answered. Cai Boyu and the soldiers divided their work separately. The two soldiers and Cai Boyu quickly used shovels from infantry tanks to dig a large pit on a flat ground in the forest. The two soldiers collected the remains of the rebel soldiers and placed them properly in the pit. Then, Cai Boyu and the two soldiers who dug the pit in front buried the pit with shovels, completing the burial of the rebel soldiers. And the other two soldiers carved the words, "Tomb of Dawn Rebel Soldiers," on a wooden board they didn't know where to find it, using a knife as a tombstone. Due to the severely damaged body and the inability to find anything to confirm the identity of the rebel soldiers, they had to engrave these words. After calming down for a while, Su Jingwen picked a few unknown flowers nearby and placed them in front of the tomb of the resistance army. Subsequently, everyone stood in front of the tomb of the rebel army, expressing their condolences through various means. The allied soldiers took off their hats and saluted, while Cai Boyu and Su Jingwen bowed to the tomb. Cai Boyu said, "You are all apocalyptic heroes, and you will always live in our hearts." And Su Jingwen said, "My fellow countrymen, you have sacrificed your precious lives for the Dawn Rebellion. The rebellion is proud to have soldiers like you. Please rest in peace, we will inherit your spirit and continue to fight to the end for the future of humanity." After mourning, Cai Boyu asked Su Jingwen, "Miss Su, what are your plans next?" Su Jingwen replied, "Back to the headquarters of the resistance army, my task has not been completed yet." Cai Boyu asked, "What task?" Su Jingwen replied, "Do Mr. Cai Boyu still remember that file bag? My task is to deliver that file bag to headquarters." Chapter 9. First Arrival at Mingcheng. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I see. Cai Boyu looked at the sky, and now the sky is gradually turning yellow. Dusk is approaching. Cai Boyu suggested, "Miss Su, it's almost dusk now, and both of us just received a huge mental shock. How about we set off tomorrow morning and send the documents back to your headquarters? What do you think?" However, Su Jingwen said, "No, it's very dangerous in the wilderness at night, and the new type of tank information from the trader trade fair must also be sent to the headquarters. This information helps us understand enemy tanks and promote the design of resistance tanks. Moreover, with your and your soldiers' assistance and your chariots on board, we can quickly rush to the headquarters, which will also help you understand our Dawn Rebellion as soon as possible. I believe that if the headquarters knows that you are willing to support our cause, they will definitely welcome your visit." Cai Boyu was surprised by the resolute girl in front of him. What is the charm of the Dawn Rebellion that makes her believe in it so much? I believe the Dawn Rebellion must be a revolutionary alliance spontaneously formed by the awakened rebels and revolutionaries in this post-apocalyptic era. Cai Boyu thought to himself. At this moment, the infantry tank driver interrupted Cai Boyu and said, "Commander, what should we do next?" Cai Boyu looked at Su Jingwen and said, "I'm going to ask Miss Su now." And Su Jingwen had already taken out a folded map from her shoulder bag. The infantry tank driver who saw the map also approached. Su Jingwen opened the map and all the geographic information of the entire forest was displayed in front of everyone. "The base is still a bit far from here," Su Jingwen pointed to the map and said, "If you go further, you will see a fork in the road. We need to exit the forest from the left fork, and then follow this dried-up river to reach the headquarters." "Okay," Cai Boyu looked at the driver and said, "Our destination is the headquarters of the resistance army. Let's drive." "Yes." The driver stepped on the accelerator and as the engine of the infantry tank sounded, Cai Boyu and his team set off again. The driver of the infantry tank turned on the radio and said, "Hummer, please keep up with us and don't get lost." "Understood," replied the Hummer driver. This time, infantry tanks are at the forefront, not Humvees. After an unknown amount of time, the convoy had already departed from the forest, and dusk had turned into night. On the vast wilderness, there was only one striker infantry tank and one Hummer driving on the road. In the infantry tank, Cai Boyu was already asleep, but Su Jingwen was flipping through a thick notebook. The word on the cover of the notebook is Monster Note. Suddenly, the vehicle brakes and Cai Boyu suddenly wakes up due to inertia. What's going on? Is there an enemy attack? The Allied soldier sitting next to Cai Boyu said calmly, "No, Commander." "We're here, Commander," the infantry tank driver turned his head and added. Cai Boyu scratched his head and said, "It's quite fast. I arrived before even dreaming." Allied soldiers. Black and white ? JPG, Su Jingwen. Transfers doubt leads to doubt, speechlessness leads to speechlessness, but after arriving at the destination, everyone except the driver got off the car. Cai Boyu looked around and saw that this was a desert. In front of everyone, there is a hill. Underneath the hill is a settlement composed of a fortress made of stone bricks and a small town with a wasteland style. This place really has a unique charm. Cai Boyu was very impressed by this. Cai Boyu's wasteland style always has a special romance. The headquarters of the resistance army is ahead, Mr. Cai. Su Jingwen's voice interrupted Cai Boyu's attention. "Okay, please ask Miss Su to lead the way," Cai Boyu replied politely. For some reason, Su Jingwen seemed very happy. The small town is not big, surrounded by a wooden wall about 3 meters high reinforced with scrap metal plates and barbed wire mesh. At the location of the main road entering the town, in addition to a gate composed of scrap metal, wooden boards, and iron mesh doors, there are also wooden horse guards, guard posts, and gates, as well as 6 armed guards. There is a flag on the pavilion. Double swords and shield, which is the symbol of the Dawn Rebellion. "Stop, who are you?" a guard shouted. Other security guards also maintained a high level of vigilance and disarmed their firearms. Cough, cough. Su Jingwen coughed twice. "Hey, Miss Su." A guard looked surprised when they saw Su Jingwen. Another guard saw Su Jingwen and said, "This is Miss Su." The guard who initially stopped them coughed twice and said, "Sorry, Miss Su, we didn't notice it was you just now. It was a hard journey." He then saluted Su Jingwen. "It's not hard, completing organizational tasks is my top priority," Su Jingwen replied with a smile. Cai Boyu looked at the respectful guard and then at Su Jingwen, thinking to himself, "This girl is indeed a cadre of the resistance army. It seems you're not holding the wrong thigh." A guard began to notice Cai Boyu, the Allied soldiers behind him, and 2 vehicles. The guard asked, "Miss Su, who are the people behind you?" Subsequently, Su Jingwen naturally pulled Cai Boyu standing behind her and said, "Let me introduce you to Mr. Cai Boyu, a revolutionary who is willing to support our cause." And the well-equipped warriors behind him are all his followers. The guard's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise, but immediately became serious again. Then they saluted Cai Boyu together and said, "Welcome our new comrades to come to Mingcheng." Comrades in arms, this term is very common in the military, but it also represents an irreplaceable emotion between soldiers. "Thank you all, please give me more guidance from now on." Cai Boyu finished speaking and shook hands with the guards. And the Allied soldiers behind him replied to the guards with military salutes. After experiencing special greetings from the guards, the group walked towards the fortress in the center of the town under the leadership of Su Jingwen. The houses in the small town are desert dwellings built of earth and stone. The residents of the small town each perform their own duties. Farmers take care of unknown crops in a small vegetable field, craftsmen in a workshop are repairing machinery, ordinary residents trade in the market, and there are guards wearing leather and scrap metal armor and holding firearms. The entire town has a small population, but it is very harmonious. Cai Boyu said, "This is still different from the post-apocalyptic settlement I imagined." Su Jingwen said, "Mr. Cai, you can't find such a harmonious town anywhere else." Cai Boyu initially felt that something was wrong, but after listening to Su Jingwen's words, he immediately felt that there was no problem anymore. "Hello Miss Su." The group had already arrived at the gate of the fortress, where the guards on duty saluted Su Jingwen. "Hello, you worked hard today too." Su Jingwen greeted the guard with a smile as usual. But when he saw Cai Boyu and the allied soldiers, a puzzled expression appeared on his face. "By the way, they are revolutionaries willing to support our cause and our new friends," Su Jingwen replied. "I see. Welcome, friend." The guard's face was filled with joy. "Welcome to the headquarters of the Dawn Resistance Army, please come in." Cai Boyu quickly replied, "Thank you." Su Jingwen smiled and said, "Mr. Cai Boyu, this is the headquarters of the Resistance Army. Please come with me." "Okay." After speaking, Cai Boyu and the accompanying allied soldiers entered the fortress under the leadership of Su Jingwen. Chapter 10. Unscrupulous Visitors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cai Boyu and others arrived at the headquarters of the Resistance Army. This 5-star fortress. Unlike the small town outside the fortress, this is the headquarters of the Resistance Army and a fully militarized fortress. Rebel soldiers patrol inside the fortress, on the city walls, and sentinels pay attention to any possible threats from their positions. In the center of the fortress is a signal tower, where a rebel member carries out signal transmission and reception work. Cai Boyu said, "To be honest, this place is quite similar to an independent fortress." Su Jingwen turned her head and asked, "What is the independent fortress you're talking about?" "It's nothing," Cai Boyu replied. "It's just an ordinary place name." Ordinary place names. Su Jingwen pondered in her heart, how can the name of a fortress be an ordinary place name? The fortress is a military stronghold. But now, Su Jingwen's top priority is to deliver the archive bag to the leader of the Resistance Army. Zhang Yujie. This intelligence is very important to them. By the way, let me introduce to you the headquarters of the Resistance Army, which is here, we call Dawn Fortress. Dawn Fortress. That name is still acceptable, Cai Boyu replied. You can also see that the entire fortress is a 5-star fortress, and the above-ground part of the fortress has been completely militarized by us, very strong. Even on each fortress, we are equipped with a large-caliber heavy gun. Our weapons and ammunition depots are all in these fortresses, while other places such as residential areas and conference rooms are underground. At this moment, a voice interrupted Su Jingwen's introduction to Lingbao to Cai Boyu. "Ah, Miss Su, long time no see." A cheerful male voice came in. A man about the same age as Cai Boyu, but slightly taller than Cai Boyu, walked towards Su Jingwen. Su Jingwen looked in the direction where the voice was coming from and smiled happily, Li Jinrong. As soon as Li Jinrong walked up to Su Jingwen, she immediately hugged him. At this moment, Cai Boyu standing aside asked the rebel soldiers next to him, "Who is that person named Li Jinrong?" The soldier replied, "Mr. Li Jinrong, he is really impressive. Like Miss Su, he is a intelligence officer, who collects various intelligence outside. Miss Su mainly collects intelligence through the Trader Trade Association, while Mr. Li Jinrong collects intelligence within the territory of the Hammaster Empire." Cai Boyu. That's really strong. On the other side, why did you come? Su Jingwen asked. I still have the intelligence, come back and report, Li Jinrong made a grimace. Li Jinrong continued, I just came out of the conference room, and the leader happened to be in the same room. Why don't I go with you? Definitely. Su Jingwen said, and I happen to have to introduce you to the new partners of the resistance army. New partner. Li Jinrong suddenly noticed Cai Boyu and the allied soldiers not far away. At this moment, Cai Boyu was talking to the allied soldiers. Su Jingwen pointed at Cai Boyu and his group and said, "It's them, they're our new partners." Su Jingwen shouted, "Mr. Cai Boyu. Be polite later." Cai Boyu noticed Su Jingwen's shout. "Here we go." Cai Boyu quickly ran towards Su Jingwen's position. Of course, there are also those 6 allied soldiers. "What's wrong, is there anything I need?" Cai Boyu asked. Su Jingwen will introduce to you, this is the scout commander of our Dawn Resistance Army and also one of our intelligence agents. Li Jinrong. This is Cai Boyu, a progressive revolutionary and our new supporter. The remaining 6 soldiers are followers of Mr. Cai. Su Jingwen also introduced Cai Boyu to Li Jinrong. Cai Boyu extended his right hand and said to Li Jinrong, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Li. We will be partners from now on. Please give us more guidance." Li Jinrong smiled and held Cai Boyu's hand, saying, "Nice to meet you." However, Li Jinrong was not shaking hands, but rather forcefully squeezing Cai Boyu's hand. Despite the pain, Cai Boyu did not show any abnormalities due to the presence of Su Jingwen. The handshake ceremony for the happy first meeting lasted only 3 seconds, and then Li Jinrong let go of Cai Boyu's hand. Despite the pain of being pinched, Cai Boyu still put his hand behind his back as if nothing had happened. Li Jinrong said, "Miss Su Jingwen, please go see the leader first. I have some things to talk to Mr. Cai about." "Okay, you guys have a good chat. Remember to come down and meet the leader later." After that, Su Jingwen entered the fortress. "Your name is Cai Boyu, right?" After Su Jingwen left, Li Jinrong's voice suddenly became cold. Cai Boyu replied, "Cough cough, yes, I wonder if Mr. Li. Just call my name directly." "Okay." Cai Boyu noticed that Li Jinrong's attitude towards him was a bit strange. "Li Jinrong, may I ask what you want to say to me alone?" "It's nothing," Li Jinrong said, "I just wanted to remind you." "Reminder?" Cai Boyu was confused. "First of all, don't think that you and your group were brought by Miss Su, so you can easily get something from the Dawn Rebellion. The rebellion won't take in or shelter a group of pampered and incompetent people." Li Jinrong's tone was clearly full of provocation. To be honest, since the establishment of the anti-Japanese army, besides Miss Su, I have never seen anyone with such fair skin, but today I have seen it. Li Jinrong reached out and pointed to Cai Boyu and his group. "You 7 are the whitest-skinned people I have ever seen, except for Miss Su and those disgusting self-proclaimed aristocratic pigs." Li Jinrong spread his hands and said in a very provocative tone, "I guess you haven't been to the battlefield before, have you? Although your equipment is indeed excellent, I think when the gunfire rings, you will probably lose your armor and be scared to death, and finally run away, right? After all, the guards of those little nobles are just a group of stupid pigs who live on a vegetarian diet. You." An allied soldier couldn't help but prepare to go up and repair Li Jinrong. Cai Boyu raised his hand and blocked the allied soldiers, signaling him not to be impulsive. "Hehe, Miss Su is so kind that someone like you with unknown origins and intentions can seize the loophole and come to the headquarters of the resistance army. Look at your clothing, especially you, Mr. Cai. You used to be some kind of aristocrat, right?" Cai Boyu was wearing a very comfortable casual outfit. It was carefully selected and replaced by the system. "What did you do, to the extent that you were so miserable, to become like this? Are you afraid you didn't just sell out your family and be exiled?" Facing the guy in front of him who owed him so much that he couldn't fight, Cai Boyu didn't say anything. Seeing that Cai Boyu did not respond to his words at all, he asked again, "So what are you doing with us? Is it wealth or power? After all, I can see a lot of dirty guys like you. Hey, why aren't you talking? I don't remember you being mute, Cai Boyu." Cai Boyu spoke up and said, "So your question is over, right? Well, why, do you have anything else to say? Li Jinrong looked at Cai Boyu with a very disdainful expression. Firstly, we. Alright, shut up. Guys like you can't hear anything else except lies. MD, how did this scumbag join the resistance army? It seems that the quality of the resistance army is not always as high as Su Jingwen's. I just hope that there will be fewer scumbags like him in the resistance army. Cai Boyu cursed inwardly. Secondly, I don't know what you did before or what you went through with Miss Su. But I want to remind you. Don't get close to Miss Su, although she used to be a member of the aristocratic class, she is a true revolutionary. She is not someone you can touch or compare to. When Li Jinrong said these words, Cai Boyu clearly felt his anger and hostility. Is this guy having a brain twitch? Is this the kind of attitude towards his new teammate? It's really hard to understand. Cai Boyu couldn't understand Li Jinrong's behavior at all. And the allied soldiers were filled with anger towards Li Jinrong, who insulted themselves and their commanders. In their hearts, the position of the commander is supreme, even if the commander asks them to commit suicide in place, they will not hesitate to do so. If it weren't for the first allied soldier being stopped by Cai Boyu, they would have had to cripple Li Jinrong no matter what. Alright, when you see the leader, pay attention. This is not your home, don't think everyone is your servant, just give orders if you want. Also, it's best not to let me see any bad intentions from you, especially towards Miss Su. Otherwise, I'll let you die without a whole body. After speaking harshly, Li Jinrong turned around and entered the fortress. By the way, Li Jinrong said to the guard at the entrance of the Lingbao, these people may not be kind. Except for the one surnamed Cai who can enter, no one else can enter and they are not allowed to carry weapons. Do you understand? Yes, the guard replied. Although he was deeply puzzled by the command, he must obey. Li Jinrong patted the guard's shoulder and entered the fortress. Sorry brother, this is Mr. Li's order, I must execute it, the guard replied helplessly. Cai Boyu murmured in a low voice. There is something wrong with the brain. Who is the wrong person? The system said, the others are okay, but Li Jinrong's hostility towards you is unprecedentedly strong. You'd better be on guard. Thank you to the system. Cai Boyu immediately thanked the system. Although I don't know why Li Jinrong has such a strong hostility towards him, there is no doubt that I must be cautious of this person. If even the system specifically reminds us, it means that things are definitely not simple. An allied soldier asked, Commander, are you really going in again? Cai Boyu replied, everyone has come, how can we not get to know them well? Even if we set aside everything else, we still have to give Miss Su Jingwen face, so I definitely have to go. You are waiting for me here. Based on my experience from knowing Miss Su Jingwen to meeting that person surnamedly, most members of the resistance army should be relatively easy to get along with. In addition, the resistance army is currently in a difficult situation, so I don't think they will make it difficult for my new ally. The allied soldier said, okay, Commander, if you need anything, please call us by radio. Cai Boyu said, okay, it's really my honor to meet you all. The allied soldier said, it is also our honor to fight under your banner. Cai Boyu was deeply moved, but now is not the time to think about it. I have to go see the leader of the Dawn Rebellion, I hope he won't disappoint me. After that, Cai Boyu accepted the inspection of the guards and then entered the fortress.